Welcome back to another episode of Growth Marketers Podcast. I'm Solomon Timothy.
And I'm Taylor Rowe. Today we're going to talk about LinkedIn ads. In the episode, we jumped into really kind of a brief overview of LinkedIn ads, who it's for, how to go about setting up a campaign, the types of ads that there may be, what to think about when you're creating your messaging, what sort of offer should it be, whether that's at the top of the funnel or all the way down at the bottom of the funnel. So if you're interested in learning more about LinkedIn ads, I think you'll enjoy the podcast. As always, listen to the rest of our podcast. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you have any questions for us, you can go to oneims.com and reach out.
So Taylor, today we're talking about LinkedIn ads. You know, this is a really cool topic. LinkedIn's got a lot of advantages over the other platforms. We talked about Facebook and everything else in previous episodes. So I think we need to give our audience a pretty good idea of what's possible in LinkedIn today. And it's changing really fast as well since Microsoft acquired them. So I don't know, where do you want to start?
Maybe just an overview of who LinkedIn is for, what type of companies should use LinkedIn to generate leads or sell their products. I think primarily, if you look at it, it sounds like a perfect platform for B2B companies, right? Because you can target people by, their job title, their industry, the revenue, all those sorts of things. So if you're selling something in the B2B space, you would think that LinkedIn would be perfect. But ultimately, just like with every platform, there's advantages and disadvantages. So let's kind of dive into, who would be a good fit or a good company to promote themselves on LinkedIn. So any thoughts you have on that?
I mean, you have to think about who's on LinkedIn. So it's professionals,
recruiters,
right? Recruiters, people trying to sell things. And I think if you're in the B2B space, that's probably the ideal place for it. Although there's plenty of B2B people on Facebook, we know that all day, but specifically who is going to be on LinkedIn, who is going to be commenting on things and clicking on links. I think these are folks that are looking to connect with other B2B companies, right? So if my business is selling jewelry, I'm probably not going to be spending all day on LinkedIn, right? So I think you got to be looking for B2B buyers. And since LinkedIn is not the cheapest platform, it costs much higher, significantly higher than other platforms in cost per click. We got to be very strategic as to, what kind of campaigns you're going to run. And I think that's where a lot of people fail in LinkedIn, and then they don't think it's a good solution. So maybe we can talk about, the numbers. How would LinkedIn make sense for you?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, like you said, I think you have to look at the intent. Just with any platform or any marketing campaigns, you have to look at the intent of the user on that platform. And LinkedIn by nature is a passive platform. People go there to kind of scroll through and either kill time or for a very specific reason, like you mentioned, because maybe they're a recruiter, they're a salesperson, or they're a marketer who's looking to share their own information or just learn more about a company or something in their industry. So if you happen to be selling something to those people, then it's a perfect platform. The downsides, like you said, could involve the cost, depending on what you're selling. I think the other factor that you have to look at in determining is it the right platform for you is the actual product or service that you're selling and what is the value of that. I think as a rule of thumb, if the lifetime value of whatever you're selling is maybe less than $10,000 to $15,000, it might not. The economics of it might not make sense because your cost per click on average is most likely going to be $5 to maybe $10, $8 or $10 per click for every click, right? And there's some platforms in terms of a lead generation, top of funnel lead generation, that you can get actual leads for less than that. So that as a cost per click can be relatively scary to people when you start doing the math in terms of, if it's $10 a click and you only have a 2% conversion rate.
If you can get that.
Yeah, and then you're not going to close all of those deals because most likely they're, an ebook download or some sort of top of funnel offer. So if you even, close 10% of those deals, which may be high, again, your lifetime value needs to outweigh that. So I think you just have to look at the big picture and just try to understand what you're trying to accomplish. So like you said, if you want to get into the numbers, that's what I would do, is work backwards from what is your lifetime value and what are you trying to accomplish with these campaigns, and kind of say, okay, how much am I willing to pay for a lead, and what does the rest of that sales process look like?
And you mentioned top of funnel, middle funnel. And for the audience, we're just talking about very high level brand awareness, right? Just educational content to get them up to speed about why they might need your product or services. So that's top of funnel. Middle of funnel, people in consideration stage. And would you say LinkedIn is better for middle of funnel than top, since it costs so high?
I think, yeah, it depends again what you're trying to do and how difficult your audience is to reach. I mean, I think the advantage of LinkedIn is, and we'll get into some of the targeting parameters maybe in a second, but I think one of the major advantages is the fact that you can target people literally based on their job, the industry. Right. So if you say, hey, I want to target, my product is only good for CEOs,
CIOs, CTOs
of tech companies in the Silicon Valley area that have already between 10 and 15 or 10 and 50 million in revenue, right? And that's a very specific audience that you're trying to reach. LinkedIn is a great way to get in front of that audience because you can set those targeting. So in that case, they don't even know who you are yet. You may need to have more of an awareness campaign, some sort of a top of funnel offer, an infographic, an ebook, a checklist, something that's valuable enough to them that they can actually download and you can generate that as a lead. I do think over time with any campaign, it's going to work better if you can drive traffic from multiple channels. So if you're driving traffic from search, if you're driving traffic from other social platforms like Facebook, if you're doing any display ads through Google Display, have a YouTube channel, whatever that may be, the more traffic you can drive organically, then those middle of the funnel offers, in theory, may be more successful because they're already introduced to your brand.
Right. No, I mean, as far as targeting is concerned, it's every possible thing you can understand from a B2B perspective, which, like I said, that's where the cost per click actually goes up. The more targeted you want to get, the smaller the pool of people you can pick, and the more you'd be paying, right? So at the end of the day, I think it's very critical that you do your targeting correctly, because that's going to dictate how much you're going to be paying per click as well.
So let's talk about that in terms of targeting. How would you set an audience, and then how do you decide what sort of offer should be included with that campaign?
I mean, if you're really looking for leads, right, you're going to have a very different offer, because LinkedIn's got the LinkedIn ads campaign where they can just fill in their information, submit for them to contact the vendor, right? So you can fill out a form, and literally that's just like Facebook leads that you're getting the contact. That's the fastest way if you wanted to get leads. Now, in a perfect world, you might need to introduce them to the brand before you can get them to actually commit to giving you their information. So you'll do it by industry. That a lot of us know what industries that work really well in. We can target based on the title, like we said, or the size of the company, the location of them, right? You could even say that if they don't have, certain degree, they might not be a good fit. I don't know. Right? You know what I'm saying? You could say that this is a finance person. I'm selling education.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, we've run campaigns in the past where it's part of a continuing education program where it's first you have to pass this level of test, and second level of test, and third level of test. So that level of the ability to target people based on where they're at in their career progression and their education is extremely powerful. But if you don't take into consideration that, let's say, these people don't have any idea who you are, that offer might not align with the audience, right? So I think with any campaign that you're running, you need to either work through it that way and say, okay, what offer is going to be best for this audience, or work backwards from there, from the actual offer. If you have some sort of an ebook, a catalog, something to download, checklist, work backwards from there and say, okay, who would this be good for? How are we going to get in front of them? And what messaging is going to lead this either complete stranger or someone who's maybe been to our website before to actually take that next step and give me their contact information? So like you said at the very beginning, I think a lot of times companies or marketers will invest in a platform like LinkedIn and are very gun shy because off the bat, it's very expensive. You don't have as sophisticated of targeting parameters that you may have with a platform like Facebook.
Right.
And
or the user base.
Yeah. And if you don't, exactly, that's the other thing is that, professionals are still professionals when they go to Facebook. So you can still get in front of those audience members. But anyway, people will throw the whole campaign out and say, a LinkedIn platform doesn't work for me, when there's so many variables that could be impacting that. What if your audience isn't there, your targeting isn't right,
or
your,
the offer,
your bid strategy isn't right, your offer, your creative, your call to action, your messaging. How can you, you have to run a campaign and spend, $50,000, $100,000 before I would say, okay, we exhausted every option and I just don't see that this is a viable platform for you.
Right. I think what we're trying to say is that strategy is the number one thing that we need to do. Spend as much trying to plan and have a better game plan for it. And I think some of the things that people don't really understand is that if you're having, let's say forget a 15,000 LTV, let's say it's 115 or a $500,000 LTV. So you're already in the account-based marketing space, and LinkedIn is perfect because you can go target specifically the type of companies that you want your ads to show up in.
Yeah.
Right. You can say, hey, my ad should only show up in these specific.
You can target the company specifically.
Correct.
If you have a list of, hey, there's 10 companies I'm trying to get into.
Another one is I have the perfect contact list of the folks that I need to talk to.
Yep.
I want to upload that to LinkedIn, and I want to be able to target those specific individuals, and LinkedIn will match that if their email address and name and everything is matched there, right? Their database, and they can do that. I think that's an area. And then also, if you have your lead list of how many ever people you want to find lookalike of that, LinkedIn also is an amazing platform for it. So I guess it comes down to strategy. Before you worry about the offer and just throwing it out there and just using the generic targeting, what do we want to show these very large companies depending on your size, right? Let's say you're selling some automation tool that, it's $1 million to just install the machine, right? So you really want to make sure you're targeting the right people, and what are you showing to them? Perhaps a video ad is more effective. And we know that, they have carousel ad, they got all that. Maybe it's a video ad. And also retargeting is another area that I think LinkedIn could be really powerful, because they'll go to the LinkedIn profile to go check on something. There comes your ad from the product or service that you downloaded on another website. You have to combine all of these things to make LinkedIn work.
Yeah, I really believe that with almost every ad platform, maybe aside from a very well-known brand that is just doing, let's say, Google Shopping ads that is able to convert people on the first visit. For the most part, you need to have a very comprehensive program in place and plan in place. And like you said, if you're not driving traffic, if you're not creating awareness, you're not, having some sort of a sales strategy in place on all of your platforms, your LinkedIn ads might not perform the way that you want to. But if you have built up a big audience through all these different channels and you can retarget to that list, they're going to perform at a much higher level. So I think that's something to definitely consider with any type of advertising, but specifically with LinkedIn, because you don't have as many options as some other platforms. You really have kind of that native display ad that shows up in the feed, and then you have a text ad that comes up on the sidebar. There's other things, kind of promoted or boosted posts essentially, but really that's it. There's InMail, which is interesting. Same idea. You can basically put your email in someone's inbox, by paying for it, right? So again, you have to look at that on a very granular level and say, who am I sending this InMail to, and what messaging is going to get them to reply to me or to fill out this form. And if you just blanket that across, it's probably not going to perform very well. The more specific it is to that audience, the more that resonates with whatever that user's intent may be, the better that's going to perform.
Right. So I guess, like I said, for our listeners here, if you haven't tried LinkedIn ads, I would start, right? At least an awareness campaign would be a great place to start, and at least start to dive in and see the targeting. Can we get the right kind of folks to download our ebook or whatever else? If you're already doing it, I would say start doing contact matching and things like that to take the current campaign to another level.
Start very top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, retarget to your existing audience. And like you said, come up with, something that is extremely valuable, but extremely easy to get people to download just to see how that messaging is resonating with your audience. And as with any platform or any marketing campaign, the beauty of it being digital is that you can test and you can iterate in real time. So I think any campaign always start with some sort of a split test or an A/B test, whether that's the ad copy, the creative, the audience. Let the data drive the decision.
I think one thing we need to talk about is what's happening in a greater marketplace of LinkedIn being owned by Microsoft.
Sure.
I think that adds a lot more. I mean, I feel like LinkedIn is on to another something major because you now have a search engine and a platform, like a social media platform in one. And they're starting to integrate that. And I think that integration is only going to get stronger over time, where we're probably going to need to pay, more attention to LinkedIn than we have been in the past, right? So let's talk about what you can do with Bing integration and how LinkedIn and Bing is sharing, I guess, our information.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess in theory, the integration means to marketers that you can then target people on Bing's ad networks and ad platforms based on their
LinkedIn information.
Yeah, their LinkedIn profile information. So any information that's in their LinkedIn profile, whether that's their skill set, their education, their years of experience, the company they work at, the industry, the job title, department, right? Department-based targeting, like you said, if it's account-based marketing, and we want to target anybody in the sales department, no matter what, let's say what level of or status they are, what job title they are, you could do that. So in theory, you could do that all through Bing, through their search, shopping campaigns, display ads, and only show the ads to people who are relevant with your audience and kind of overlay those audiences, which we've done on a lot of other platforms. And it's always extremely powerful the more that you can specialize and specify who you want to see that ad, of course, as long as that pool is not too small.
Right. So, and I think that's only going to get developed better and better over time. And again, Bing is getting more of the market share over time, slowly but surely. And I think it's only going to mean more and more for the advertisers. Right now, I could say that it's probably extremely undervalued. And maybe it's pennies on the dollar for a significantly high quality audience. And it's time that you try it, right? I mean, it's only available for US right now. So try it and see if that works.
Right.
And if you can get lower cost lead that way, I'll do it.
Yeah, it's worth a shot. And especially, I mean, Bing is a platform that people do kind of tend to forget because it doesn't have as much market share. But the reality is people who are using Bing always use Bing. So if you're not advertising on Bing, you're not going to reach those people when they're on Google because they might not ever be on Google. Right. So it's just an untapped market for some people, some businesses, some industries, depending again on who you're trying to target. But I think, like you said, the future opportunity or possibility is probably the most exciting part because if they really nail this piece of the targeting and technology, this is just one social platform, right? There's a lot of other ad platforms, ad networks, social platforms that are trying to figure out how to monetize it. And if you can take those targeting parameters from something like LinkedIn and leverage that across all different ad platforms, then I think that's going to be extremely powerful.
Absolutely. And any final thoughts, Taylor? I know we talked plenty about LinkedIn, who should do it and how we should do it.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. I want to start a LinkedIn ad campaign now. I think it is overlooked, and I don't, want to sit here and say that we're, telling you that every company needs to advertise on LinkedIn, but I think it's all about managing your own expectations and setting specific goals with your campaigns. Is it going to produce super low cost per lead? Are you going to sell product directly like you can through other, platforms? No. Is it a great platform for the people who are a great fit? Yeah, if they leverage it correctly. So I think just kind of understanding your own customer and what might resonate with them and where they might be if they're on a platform like LinkedIn, and test it out and, run some tests and make sure you spend enough to have enough volume.
Correct.
That you don't shy away, because you think we should be getting leads for $20, $30, $40. You might not even have enough clicks yet for the algorithms to kind of start working.
Yep, absolutely. as always, if you're trying to target recruiters, LinkedIn is a great platform.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, we've had a lot of success targeting things, recruiters and people within the HR department,
Right.
salespeople, because that's where they're hanging out.
So thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you at the next episode.